Hello, my name is Nick Doyle and I lead Kroll's security risk management practice across EMEA. I want to briefly talk about security risk and how COVID is still an influence across the region. COVID has accelerated some economic changes, so that makes the world inherently less stable and therefore less predictable. It's less predictable in that offices are not occupied in the same ways as before, and the consequence is that criminals have lost some of their ability to make money from theft or fraud and are looking for new opportunities. New vulnerabilities have been created as many people work from home, and working remotely opens up some organisations to new threats. For example, supply chains have become more important for just-in-time, high-value and high-risk goods. At the same time, supply chains have slowed down in terms of containers and other transshipments, so items may be vulnerable in certain locations as they are in situ for longer than they would have been prior to COVID. The world is a changing place and the speed of change makes it less predictable. Demonstrations are still prevalent across Europe. Many are focused on COVID and the response by national governments and also the restrictions imposed. The cost of living and the increase in fuel prices is also a major motivator for people to vent their frustrations due to financial pressures or from a social freedom perspective. This all puts pressure on reasonable people who acted rationally before, but because of these pressures have provided a trigger to act in some cases irrationally or out of character. The recent media reports coming out of France, the Netherlands and even Kazakhstan visibly show the extent of these demonstrations and the escalation into violence. It's important for companies to monitor these incidents, especially if it does happen in the locality of their offices or sites, especially if their workforce is still required to attend these locations. It's always helpful to provide advice to employees about potential events that can impact their routes to and from work, or how they respond to being caught up in an incident. It's also important to protect your sites and your supply chains. It's important to focus on internal threats such as theft and fraud. As I've mentioned, the pressure on the cost of living can trigger some people and motivate them to carry out theft or fraud in your businesses. If you would like to have a conversation about this topic or how Kroll can support you, please contact me by email or phone with details available on the Kroll website. Thank you.